The bottle of sleeping pills felt light in William Harrison's trembling hand, too light for something meant to end everything. Below, 4 stories down, Boston's December snow swirled like ghosts against the mansion's stone walls. The blizzard screamed. Inside, silence. Then, a sound that shattered 6 months of stillness. Owen was crying. His 10-month-old son, who hadn't made a sound since the doctors declared him blind, was crying. Not the weak mewl of an infant, but a real, desperate wail that pierced through the storm and William's fog of grief. The pills scattered across the balcony's ice. William stumbled backward, hands shaking. Through the glass door he could see into the nursery. Owen's tiny fists punched the air. Those unseeing blue eyes, Catherine's eyes, were wide open. 3 months later, a stranger would arrive at this door and change everything. But tonight, William chose to go back inside. Tonight, he chose to stay. Leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments along with the city you're watching from now. Let's continue with the story. 18 months earlier, William Harrison had everything a man could want. His tech company dominated Boston's innovation corridor. His Beacon Hill mansion gleamed with old money charm, and Catherine, beautiful, brilliant Catherine, carried their first child beneath her heart. They'd met at an art gallery opening. She was an interior designer with paint-stained fingers and a laugh that filled rooms. He was the awkward tech CEO who couldn't stop staring. Their wedding had been small, perfect, just family. Just Martha, his mother, beaming with joy. Just Marcus, his best friend since college, standing as best man. Life was a golden thread, unspooling toward forever. Valentine's Day 2023 shattered that illusion. Heavy snow had blanketed the city that evening. William was driving them home from dinner, Catherine's hand resting on her swollen belly. She was humming some old lullaby her mother used to sing. The streetlights cast halos through the falling snow. Then the truck lost control on black ice. Metal screamed. Glass exploded. The world tilted, and Catherine's last words were a whisper. "Save the baby." The emergency room doctors performed a cesarean section while William sat in the waiting room covered in his wife's blood. Owen survived. 7 months gestation, but breathing, fighting. Catherine was pronounced dead at the scene. They buried her on a gray February morning. Marcus had been supposed to drive them that night, but had too much wine at dinner. William took over. Now guilt consumed him. If he'd called a car service, if they'd stayed home, if he'd driven slower. The if-onlys multiplied like cancer cells. Owen came home from the hospital 3 weeks later. At first, everything seemed fine, but by week 4, the pediatrician noticed something wrong. Owen didn't track objects with his eyes, didn't respond to light. Doctor. Harold Mitchell, William's father's best friend, the family's trusted physician for 20 years, delivered the diagnosis with tears in his eyes. Congenital blindness. "I'm so sorry, William. His optic nerves simply didn't develop properly." Specialists confirmed it. Expensive treatments began. Eye drops administered daily by a nurse named Patricia Reynolds. Consultations with the best doctors money could buy. But Owen only grew more unresponsive. He stopped cooing, stopped smiling, just lay in his crib, staring at nothing with those beautiful, empty blue eyes. William stopped going to work. The mansion became a mausoleum. Martha tried to help, bringing casseroles and hope. But William pushed everyone away. He couldn't bear their pity. Couldn't bear looking at his mother's declining health, the cough she tried to hide, the weight falling away. By December, William was a ghost haunting his own life. Then Maggie Thompson answered the job posting for a live-in housekeeper. She arrived during the worst blizzard of the year, carrying a small suitcase and secrets of her own. The morning of December 4th, arrived with pale winter light filtering through ice-crusted windows. Maggie Thompson stood at the iron gates of the Harrison mansion, her breath forming small clouds in the frozen air. Snow from last night's blizzard reached her knees. She was 32 years old and felt ancient. Martha Harrison answered the door herself, a small, elegant woman with silver hair and kind eyes that held too much sadness. "You must be frozen, dear. Come in, come in." The interior was beautiful in the way museums are beautiful, untouched, unlived in. Martha gave her a brief tour, speaking in hushed tones as if afraid to wake something sleeping. "William is upstairs. He's had a difficult time. Lost his wife Catherine in a car accident last February. She was 8 months pregnant." Maggie's chest tightened. She knew about loss, knew about the hollow space where a child should be. "The baby survived," Martha continued, leading her up the curved staircase. "Owen, he's 10 months now, but he was born blind. William has tried everything, every specialist, every treatment. Nothing helps." She paused at a locked door on the 3rd floor. "Catherine's room. No one goes in there." They passed several rooms before reaching a small bedroom with a view of snow-covered gardens. "This will be yours. I hope it's comfortable." "It's perfect," Maggie said softly. She'd been sleeping in bus stations and cheap motels for 3 months. This felt like a palace. After Martha left, Maggie unpacked her single suitcase, 3 changes of clothes, toiletries, and wrapped in tissue paper, a tiny blue blanket, Tommy's blanket, the one he'd been holding when she found him cold in his crib 8 months ago. She pressed it to her face, breathed in the fading scent of baby powder and grief, then tucked it under her pillow. At 2:15 that afternoon, Maggie entered the nursery to begin her cleaning duties. The room was a contradiction, filled with expensive toys that gleamed unused, a state-of-art crib, educational mobiles hanging motionless, and in the center, sitting perfectly still, was Owen. Maggie froze. He was beautiful. Blonde curls catching the afternoon light. Blue eyes open but unfocused, staring somewhere past her shoulder. His little body rigid in a way that made her former nurse instincts prickle with unease. She'd sworn she wouldn't get close to children again. After Tommy died, after the investigation, after losing everything, she'd promised herself no more. But something about this baby pulled at her. She began dusting the windowsill, stealing glances at Owen. He didn't move, didn't babble or coo like a 10-month-old should, just sat there, breathing. But then, was that tension in his shoulders? His fingers twitched when she moved the curtain. Subtle, almost invisible. But there, Maggie stepped closer. "Hey there, little one," she whispered. Owen's breathing pattern changed, just slightly. She moved to his left, his head tilted, barely a millimeter, in her direction. "That's not typical for a blind infant," her medical training whispered. At 4 o'clock, a woman in navy scrubs arrived. Patricia Reynolds had a severe face and hurried movements. She pulled a small bottle from her medical bag, no label visible, and approached Owen with practiced efficiency. "Excuse me," Maggie said. "What medication is that?" Patricia barely glanced at her. "Specialized eye drops, doctor's orders." "May I see the prescription?" "That's not necessary. I'm a registered nurse." "So was I," Maggie said quietly. Patricia's hands stilled. Her eyes narrowed. "The formula is proprietary. Dr. Mitchell specifically requested privacy regarding Owen's treatment plan. If you have questions, take them to Mr. Harrison." She administered the drops quickly, 2 in each eye. Owen didn't even blink. Something was wrong. Maggie felt it in her bones, the same instinct that had once made her a good nurse, before everything fell apart. That evening, she accidentally encountered William in the hallway. He looked like a man drowning. Unshaven, disheveled, holding a crystal glass half filled with amber liquid. His eyes were empty. "You're the new housekeeper," he said flatly. "Maggie Thompson. I'm sorry for your loss." He laughed, a bitter, broken sound. "Which loss? My wife? My son's sight? Take your pick." He walked past her into the nursery. Maggie watched from the doorway as he lifted Owen, his movements tender despite his brokenness. "Hey, buddy. Daddy's here." He showed Owen a red ball. No reaction. A music box. Nothing. William's voice cracked. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for everything." He noticed Maggie watching. "He can't see anything. Can barely hear either, they think." "Oh, so save your pity. We don't need it." He placed Owen back in the crib and left without another word. Alone, Maggie approached the crib. She clapped her hands softly near Owen's right ear. His head turned, just slightly. "You can hear me, can't you?" she whispered. The blizzard hit Boston with savage intensity on December 5th. Weather reports called it a 50-year storm. Roads became impassable rivers of white. The city shut down. At 6:30 that evening, Maggie's phone rang. Patricia Reynolds, her voice tight with frustration. "I can't get through. The highways are closed. You'll need to give Owen his medication tonight." Maggie's pulse quickened. "What exactly am I giving him?" 6 drops total, 2 in each eye every 12 hours. There's a locked drawer in the nursery changing table. The combination is 4173. Don't miss the dose. It's critical for preventing further optic nerve damage. After Patricia hung up, Maggie stood in the nursery, Owen sleeping peacefully in his crib. Her hands shook as she entered the combination. The drawer clicked open. Inside lay a small amber bottle. The label was severely faded, edges torn and curling. She held it up to the light. The prescription information was barely legible, some letters completely worn away. Opti something. The expiration date she could make out. August 2023. 4 months passed. Her nursing training kicked in. This wasn't right. Expired medication for an infant's eyes? The drug name looked like it belonged to a category of neural suppressants she'd studied in medical school. Nothing that should ever be given to a baby. Maggie stood there for 20 minutes, the bottle growing warm in her palm. Give it and potentially harm him. Withhold it and potentially harm him. Tommy's face flashed in her memory, his last smile, his cold hand. "I couldn't save you," she whispered to the ghost of her son. "But maybe I can save him." She made her decision. She did not give Owen the drops. Instead, she hid the bottle in her room, wrapped in a washcloth and tucked into her suitcase. She pulled out a small notebook, one she'd carried since nursing school, and began documenting everything. Time. Date. Owen's current condition, her observations, her reasoning. If she was wrong, she'd give him the medication immediately. But first, she had to know. Sleep didn't come that night. Maggie lay awake, listening to the storm rage and her conscience scream. At 6:45 the next morning, she crept into the nursery, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might wake Owen. The baby was sleeping peacefully, his chest rising and falling in steady rhythm. Maggie held her breath and flipped the light switch. Owen's eyes opened, and he blinked. Not a reflexive flutter, a real deliberate blink in response to the sudden brightness. Maggie gasped, covering her mouth with both hands. She turned the light off, waited 10 seconds, turned it on again. Owen blinked again, more pronounced this time. Tears streamed down Maggie's face. She grabbed the red ball from the toy basket with trembling hands and moved it slowly from left to right, about a foot from Owen's face. His head turned, following the movement. "Oh my God," she breathed. "Oh my God, you can see." She tried different objects, a yellow duck, a blue rattle. Each time, Owen's eyes tracked the motion. The movements were small, uncertain, like muscles waking from a long sleep. But they were there, undeniable. Maggie sank to the floor, her back against the crib, and sobbed. For Tommy, whom she couldn't save, for Owen, whom she might have just saved, for all the broken pieces of her life that suddenly felt like they might have purpose. But doubt crept in quickly. Was she seeing what she wanted to see? Projecting her desperate need to rescue someone onto an innocent baby? She documented everything in meticulous detail, sketching Owen's eye movements, noting the time and light conditions. By afternoon, she'd made up her mind. If the improvements continued by evening, she'd tell William, no matter the consequences. Patricia arrived at 3 o'clock, having somehow navigated the partially cleared roads. She burst through the door with unusual urgency. "Did you give him the medication last night?" Maggie forced her face to remain neutral. "Yes. Right at 7. And any unusual behavior? Any reactions?" "He slept through the night," Maggie lied, her stomach churning. Patricia examined Owen with an intensity that seemed excessive for a routine check. She pulled a small flashlight from her bag and shined it in Owen's eyes. His pupils contracted, a normal response. Patricia's face went pale. "That's not possible," she muttered. "What's not possible?" Patricia's head snapped up, her eyes drilling into Maggie. "You gave the medication exactly as instructed?" "Of course." The lie tasted like poison. Martha entered at that moment, saving Maggie from further interrogation. Patricia composed herself instantly, administered the eye drops with shaking hands, and left within minutes. But as she rushed out, her medical bag caught on the door frame. Papers scattered across the hardwood floor. Maggie knelt to help gather them. Among the prescription forms and medical records, she glimpsed a document header. Neural Corp Clinical Trial. Patient Log. Patricia snatched the papers away, her face flushed. "Thank you," she said curtly, and fled. Maggie stood frozen. Trial. This wasn't treatment. This was an experiment. Owen was a test subject. The blindness wasn't congenital. It was caused, induced, by that medication. Rage and horror flooded through her in equal measure. But she needed proof. She needed to convince William, and he'd already shown he trusted Dr. Mitchell above all else. That evening at 8, Maggie found William in his study. A fire crackled in the massive stone fireplace. He sat in a leather chair, whiskey glass in hand, staring at the flames. He didn't look up when she entered. "Mr. Harrison, I need to talk to you about Owen. If you're quitting, just say so. Everyone leaves eventually." "I'm not quitting. I think Owen can see." The glass slipped from William's hand, splashing amber liquid across the Persian rug. He stood abruptly, his face flushing red. "What did you just say?" "I stopped his medication last night. This morning, he responded to light. He tracked objects with his eyes. I've been documenting everything." "You did what?" William's voice rose to a roar. "You stopped his treatment? Are you insane? Do you have any idea what you've done?" "Mr. Harrison, please listen. You're a housekeeper. You have no medical training, no right to make decisions about my son's health care. Owen has been treated by the best doctors in Boston. Dr. Mitchell has been our family physician for 20 years. "I was a nurse," Maggie said quietly. "I know what I saw." "Was a nurse? So you're not anymore." "What happened? Did you lose your license for doing exactly this kind of reckless thing?" The words hit like a slap. Maggie's face went white, but she held her ground. "Give me 24 hours. No medication. Let me prove it to you." "Absolutely not. You're fired. Pack your things." "William." Martha's voice came from the doorway. She'd been listening. What if she's right? Not you too, Mother. Martha stepped into the room, her frail body somehow commanding. Your father trusted Harold Mitchell, but Harold has changed in recent years. He's desperate. I've seen it. This is ridiculous. I'm calling Patricia right now. 24 hours, son. Martha's voice was steel wrapped in silk. What do you have to lose? If Owen worsens, give him the medication immediately. But if she's right... She let the possibility hang in the air. William looked between them, his dying mother and this stranger who'd upended his world in 36 hours. Exhaustion won. Fine. 24 hours. But if Owen's condition deteriorates even slightly, you're both done. And if anything happens to my son, I'll have you arrested. I'll take full responsibility, Maggie said. William stormed out. Martha touched Maggie's arm gently. Thank you, dear, for having courage when the rest of us were too afraid to question. December 7th dawned clear and cold. Maggie woke at 6 after barely sleeping, her stomach twisted with anxiety and hope in equal measure. She found William already in the nursery, standing over Owen's crib like a sentinel. Martha sat in the rocking chair, wrapped in a thick shawl despite the room's warmth. Let's begin, William said without preamble. His voice was hoarse, his eyes red-rimmed. He'd been awake all night, too. Maggie had called Patricia at dawn, telling her there was a family emergency and not to come. The lie sat heavy on her conscience, but the truth was too dangerous to reveal yet. Owen woke naturally at 7, blinking in the morning light streaming through the windows. William stepped closer, his jaw clenched, hands gripping the crib rail. Try the light test, Martha suggested quietly. Maggie flipped the switch. Darkness, then light. Owen's eyes followed the change, his pupils contracting in response to brightness. William's breath caught. That could be automatic, a reflex. Watch, Maggie said. She picked up a stuffed elephant, moving it slowly left to right. Owen's head turned, tracking its movement. She switched to a toy car, moved it up and down. Owen's eyes followed. Jesus Christ, William whispered. Hour by hour, the improvements multiplied. By 9, Owen was reaching for toys when shown. By noon, he was babbling, soft sounds, but vocalization he hadn't made in months. At 3 in the afternoon, Maggie made a funny face, scrunching her nose and crossing her eyes. Owen smiled. A real, genuine, beautiful smile. William dropped to his knees beside the crib, his body shaking with sobs he could no longer contain. You can see me? Can you really see me? He held his hand in front of Owen's face, moved his fingers. Owen's eyes locked onto the movement, and his tiny hand reached up, grasping William's finger. Dada, Owen said. Not clearly, just a soft da-da sound. But enough. William pulled his son into his arms, burying his face in those blonde curls, crying like Maggie had never heard a man cry. Martha rose from her chair, laid her hand on her son's shoulder, tears streaming down her own weathered cheeks. Maggie turned away, giving them privacy, and found herself weeping too. For Tommy, who would never smile again. For Owen, who was returning to life. For all the broken pieces that somehow, miraculously, were beginning to fit together. By evening, 24 hours after the medication stopped, Owen was making eye contact with William consistently. He turned his head when his name was called. He laughed when William played peekaboo. The transformation was undeniable. After Owen fell asleep that night, Martha pulled Maggie aside into the library. There's something you need to know, dear. She handed Maggie a thick folder. I've suspected something was wrong for months. I hired a private investigator. Inside were newspaper clippings, financial records, medical documents. Dr. Harold Mitchell's daughter, Sarah, a beautiful girl in the photos, smiling and whole, had been in a vegetative state for 15 years following a car accident. Medical debt stretched into the millions. Bank statements showed increasing desperation. And then a contract with a pharmaceutical company called Neural Corp. Payment receipts. $100,000 per patient. There was a list. 7 names, 7 families. Owen Harrison was the last entry. "My God," Maggie breathed. "He's been doing this to multiple children?" Martha nodded, her face grave. "I wanted to be wrong, prayed I was wrong, but when you came, when you noticed what none of us were brave enough to see—" She paused, a coughing fit overtaking her. When she recovered, her voice was weaker. "I'm dying, Maggie. Pancreatic cancer. 6 months at most. I needed someone young and strong to fight for Owen. I prayed for you." "You hired me on purpose," Maggie realized. "The posting was specific, live-in position, someone with nowhere else to go, someone who might stay, who might care." Martha gripped Maggie's hand. "You've already saved my grandson. Now help me save the others." The next morning, December 8th, William called Dr. Mitchell at 6 a.m. His voice was steel. "Harold, I need you here, now." Mitchell arrived by 9, unaware that the medication had been stopped. He entered the mansion with the easy confidence of an old family friend, medical bag in hand. William, Maggie, and Martha waited in the living room. Owen was in William's arms. "Good morning, William. I came as soon as—" Mitchell stopped. Owen was looking directly at him, tracking his movement as he entered the room. "How is that possible?" Mitchell's face drained of color. "Because we stopped your medication," William said, his voice dangerously quiet. "You what? You can't just stop treatment. The protocols must be—" Maggie stood, holding up the amber bottle. "OptiBlock, a neural suppressant. Experimental. Not FDA approved. You've been blinding these children deliberately." Mitchell's leather bag slipped from his fingers. "Where did you get that name?" "Neural Corp," Martha said, her voice cutting through the room like a blade. She gestured to the document spread across the coffee table. 7 children, 7 families, $100,000 each. Mitchell's legs seemed to give out. He sank into a chair, his face ashen. "I never meant. It was supposed to be temporary. Just temporary vision suppression for pain management research." "You experimented on infant children!" William's voice rose. Owen started to cry. William immediately softened, bouncing him gently, but his eyes never left Mitchell. "You took money to blind babies, Harold. You looked me in the eye at my wife's funeral and you were planning this." "I needed the money." Mitchell's voice cracked. "Sarah needs round-the-clock care. The insurance won't cover it. Every month I fall further behind. When Neural Corp approached me, they said the drug was safe, reversible. They just needed data for FDA approval." "How many children?" Maggie demanded. 7 total. Owen was the last. Where are the others? Still receiving treatment. Their parents don't know. They trust me, like William trusted me. William pulled out his phone. "I'm calling the police." "Please." Mitchell looked up, tears streaming down his face. "Please. Sarah will die without me. Who will take care of her?" "You should have thought of that before you destroyed 7 families." William's thumb hovered over the call button. "I'll make sure your daughter is cared for," Martha said quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. "She's innocent in this. William will ensure she receives proper care." William stared at his mother, then at Mitchell. Finally he nodded. "She'll be taken care of. But you're going to prison, Harold." The police arrived within 20 minutes. As officers handcuffed Mitchell, he looked back at William. "I'm sorry. I'm truly sorry. Your father was my best friend. I never wanted to hurt you." "But you did," William said. "You hurt my son when he was most vulnerable. When I was drowning in grief, you saw an opportunity. That's unforgivable." As they led Mitchell away, he screamed, "What about Sarah? Who will take care of Sarah?" The door closed on his cries. FBI agents arrived that afternoon. The investigation exploded rapidly. Patricia Reynolds came forward voluntarily, bringing 6 months of secret recordings and photographs. She'd been documenting everything. "My daughter," Patricia said, sitting in William's study, her hands shaking as she held coffee. 15 years ago, a different doctor, similar scheme. Emma was given an experimental drug. She survived, but she has developmental delays. I became a nurse to find others like him. When I heard Mitchell was doing pediatric trials, I applied to work for his patients. I've been collecting evidence for 3 years. "Why didn't you come forward sooner?" William asked. "I needed ironclad proof. Mitchell is respected, connected. Without absolute evidence, he'd have walked free and destroyed my career. When Maggie stopped the medication and Owen responded, I knew we had him." Maggie stared at this woman she'd thought was an accomplice. "You let Owen suffer." One more week of suffering versus years of Mitchell continuing his experiments. I made a calculated choice. I'm not proud of it. The FBI located the 6 other families by evening. They were scattered across 3 states: Connecticut, Massachusetts, New York, and Vermont. Agents coordinated simultaneous visits, explaining the situation, advising immediate cessation of medication. William insisted on calling each family personally. Maggie sat beside him as he made the calls, watching his heart break over and over. "Mrs. Patterson, this is William Harrison. I'm calling about your daughter Emily. You need to stop her medication immediately. I know this sounds insane, but please listen." Some families were in denial. Others became instantly violently angry. One mother, Jessica Patterson in Connecticut, started screaming, "But Dr. Henderson said she'd never see. We've spent 2 years grieving." "I know. God, I know. But there's hope now. Just stop the drops, please." By the time the 7th call ended, William was shaking. One family didn't answer. Vermont? The Chens. The FBI sent agents immediately to the Chen residence. They arrived to find 2-year-old Lily Chen still receiving medication. Her parents, David and Susan, had dismissed the calls as a scam. "We thought it was a cruel joke," Susan would later say. Who would believe such a thing? But by the time they stopped the medication, it was too late. 18 months of neural suppressants had caused permanent brain damage. Lily would never recover full function. When the FBI agent delivered this news, William doubled over as if punched. "We should have found them sooner. We should have—" "You couldn't have known," Maggie said, gripping his shoulders. "You saved 6. You saved 6 children." "But not 7, William whispered. "Not all of them." The media descended like locusts. By evening, news vans surrounded the mansion. Headlines screamed across every channel. Pharmaceutical company blinds infants in secret trial. Hero housekeeper saves billionaire's baby. 7 families betrayed by trusted doctor. Reporters shouted questions through the gates. Maggie retreated to her room, overwhelmed by the sudden exposure of her name, her face, her past. Sitting on her bed, she pulled out Tommy's blanket and pressed it to her face. "I did it, baby," she whispered. "I saved him. I saved Owen. I couldn't save you, but I saved him." A soft knock. Martha entered, moving slowly, leaning heavily on her cane. "May I?" Maggie nodded. Martha sat beside her on the bed. "That's your son's blanket," Martha said gently. It wasn't a question. "Tommy, he was 18 months old. I woke up one morning and he was—" Maggie couldn't finish. "SIDS?" Maggie nodded. "I was a pediatric nurse. I knew every warning sign, every precaution. I did everything right. And he still died." They investigated me, suspected me, eventually cleared me, but the hospital let me go anyway. Bad publicity. My nursing license was suspended pending review. My husband James had died 2 years earlier, firefighter, killed in a wildfire. Tommy was all I had left. And you lost him anyway, Martha said softly. I couldn't save my own son. What kind of nurse can't save her own child? The words tumbled out, words she'd never said aloud. I came here to disappear, to find some corner of the world where I could stop failing everyone. Martha took Maggie's hand. But instead, you saved Owen. You saved 6 other children. You didn't fail, dear. You were tested by fire and you rose. I should have stopped the medication on day 1, and William would have fired you immediately. You waited, you gathered evidence, you acted when you could. That's not failure. That's wisdom. A commotion downstairs interrupted them. Raised voices, something shattering. They rushed to the landing. In the foyer, a woman stood dripping melted snow onto the marble floor. She had Catherine Harrison's face. William stood frozen at the bottom of the stairs, Owen in his arms. The woman, Catherine, reached toward them. "William," she said, her voice breaking. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Owen, who had never seen this woman before in his conscious memory, turned his face away and buried it in William's shoulder. Catherine's hands dropped. She stared at her son, at the husband she'd left for dead, and began to weep. "I think," Martha said quietly to Maggie, "things are about to get more complicated." The trial of Dr. Harold Mitchell began on January 15th in Boston's federal courthouse. Snow fell softly outside the imposing granite building as 7 families filed through security, past the mob of reporters and cameras, into the courtroom where justice would finally have its day. William sat in the front row, Owen on his lap. The 10-month-old was alert now, curious, turning his head to watch people move. His eyes, those beautiful blue eyes, were bright and focused. Maggie sat beside them, and Martha, despite her weakening body, insisted on attending in her wheelchair. Dr. Mitchell entered in an orange jumpsuit, handcuffed, looking like he'd aged 20 years in the month since his arrest. His eyes found William, and held there, filled with something between regret and desperation. The charges were read: 7 counts of child endangerment, medical fraud, conspiracy to commit fraud, and conducting unauthorized human experiments. NeuroCorp's executives faced additional charges. They'd known the drug was dangerous and marketed it anyway. The prosecution's case was damning. Documents showed Mitchell had specifically targeted wealthy families, knowing they'd be less likely to question expensive specialists and more likely to afford ongoing treatments. The payment trail was clear: $100,000 per patient, $700,000 total over 18 months. NeuroCorp's CEO, Richard Vance, had falsified safety data, pushed for accelerated trials, and targeted infants specifically because they couldn't report side effects. Internal emails revealed chilling calculations about acceptable risk and marketable outcomes. When William took the stand, the courtroom fell silent. He carried Owen with him, refusing to set him down. "Tell us about your son," the prosecutor said gently. William's voice was steady, but his hands trembled. "Owen was born after my wife died in a car accident. For his first few weeks he seemed normal. Then Dr. Mitchell diagnosed him with congenital blindness. I trusted him. He'd been our family doctor for 20 years, my father's best friend." "What happened after the diagnosis?" 6 months of hell." William's voice cracked. Owen stopped responding to everything. He just lay there staring at nothing. I thought I'd lost him like I lost Catherine. I thought about killing myself. I stood on my balcony one night with a bottle of pills and decided I couldn't watch my son suffer anymore. A juror wiped her eyes. "What stopped you?" Owen cried. For the first time in months he cried. So I went back inside. And the next day, Maggie arrived. The defense attorney stood for cross-examination. Mr. Harrison, you're a wealthy man. Isn't it true that Dr. Mitchell's daughter has catastrophic medical expenses? Objection! The prosecutor shouted, but William held up his hand. I'll answer. Yes, Sarah Mitchell has been in a vegetative state for 15 years. Yes, her care is expensive. And yes, I've arranged for her care to continue even while her father sits in prison. Because Sarah is innocent. My son was innocent. The 7 children who were tortured by these drugs, they were all innocent. Dr. Mitchell chose to save his daughter by destroying other people's children. That's not desperation, that's evil. The courtroom erupted in applause. The judge banged her gavel, but didn't look displeased. The defense tried to paint Mitchell as a desperate father driven by impossible circumstances. They showed photos of Sarah, beautiful, young, alive in old pictures, a shell of a person in recent ones. They played on sympathy, on the impossibility of his situation. Then came January 20th. The courtroom doors opened mid-session, and Catherine Harrison walked in. William's entire body went rigid. Owen, sensing his father's tension, whimpered. Maggie instinctively reached for the baby, and William let her take him, his eyes fixed on the woman he'd mourned for a year. Catherine looked different. Her hair was shorter, darker. She wore simple clothes, but her face, God, her face was exactly as he remembered. The judge called a recess. In the witness room, Catherine sat across from William, Maggie, and Martha. 2 federal marshals stood guard. Why are you here? William's voice was ice. I saw the news about the trial, about Owen. Catherine's hands shook. I had to testify. I have to tell the truth. The truth? William's laugh was bitter. The truth is that you abandoned your son, that you let me think you were dead. I know, and I'm sorry. Sorry? William stood, pacing. Do you have any idea what I've been through, what Owen's been through? Catherine's composure shattered. I had postpartum psychosis. I was going to kill him, William. Kill myself and Owen. I was driving to the ocean. I was going to drive us both into the water. The room went silent. Marcus stopped me, Catherine continued, tears streaming. He found me at the beach. He suggested I disappear instead. Dr. Mitchell helped. I paid him $1 million to fake my death, to make it look like an accident. Marcus knew. William's face went white. We were having an affair. I'm sorry. I was going to leave you anyway. Then I got pregnant. Marcus wanted a DNA test. The results came back after he died in the real accident. Real accident? I was supposed to meet Marcus that night, to run away. But the roads were icy. He lost control. He really did die, William. I survived and fled. Let you believe I died too. She looked at Owen, sleeping in Maggie's arms. Is that... Can I hold him? No. The word came from Maggie, sharp and protective. Owen stirred and reached for her, and she held him closer. Catherine's face crumpled. I understand. He's so beautiful. So healthy. The news said he was blind? Mitchell experimented on him, William said flatly. While you were in Canada living your new life, our son was being tortured by the man you paid to help you disappear. Catherine's head snapped up. What? Martha wheeled forward. Mitchell used your money to fund his daughter's care, but it wasn't enough. So he partnered with NeuralCorp, experimented on infants, and Owen was one of them. The irony is perfect, really. You paid him to disappear. He used your money to destroy your son. Oh, God. Catherine looked like she might vomit. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. What do you want? William asked. Catherine met his eyes. To testify. to tell the truth about Mitchell. And then, she hesitated, I want custody rights. The room exploded. Maggie stood holding Owen protectively. Martha gasped. William's face turned red. You want what? He's my son. You surrendered that right when you faked your death. William's voice rose. Owen started crying. Maggie immediately began soothing him, walking to the corner, humming softly. I was sick, William. Mentally ill. I'm medicated now. Stable. I've been in therapy. You abandoned him. You let me grieve you while you started a new life. You don't get to come back now and play mother. The judge allowed Catherine to testify. She took the stand, her voice shaking, and described her deal with Mitchell. The courtroom gasped when she revealed she'd paid him $1 million. She described her postpartum psychosis, the voices telling her to harm Owen, the conviction that she was evil and he'd be better off dead than with her. I thought I was protecting him by leaving, she said. I thought he'd have a better life without a mother who wanted to hurt him. I was wrong. About everything. During cross-examination, the defense tried to use her testimony to support Mitchell's desperation narrative, but it backfired spectacularly. So Dr. Mitchell accepted $1 million from a mentally ill woman, the prosecutor said during redirect, helped her fake her death, then used that money to fund experiments on her infant son, and were supposed to feel sympathy for him? The jury deliberated for 3 days. The tension was unbearable. William barely slept. Maggie stayed close, caring for Owen, who had started saying more words. Dada, Mama, for Maggie, no, and delightfully, Cookie. On January 25th, the verdict came, guilty on all counts. Dr. Harold Mitchell was sentenced to 15 years in federal prison. His medical license was permanently revoked. He was ordered to pay $10 million in fines. Neural Corp's CEO received 25 years. The company was dissolved, its assets liquidated. A compensation fund of $150 million was created for the 7 families. As they led Mitchell away, he looked at William one last time. I'm sorry. I truly am. William nodded slightly. I'll keep my promise. Sarah will be cared for. Mitchell broke down completely, sobbing as the guards pulled him away. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. The 7 families stood together on the steps, arms linked. William held Owen high. Justice, he said simply. Owen giggled and grabbed his father's nose. The cameras caught it, the moment of pure joy, of a child who could see his father's face. That night, Catherine requested a private meeting. William agreed, against Maggie's advice. They met at a neutral location, his lawyer's office. Owen stayed home with Maggie. Catherine didn't waste time. I want to be part of his life. No. William, please, I'm his mother. Biologically? Maggie is his mother in every way that matters. Catherine pulled out an envelope. DNA test results. Marcus was Owen's biological father, not you. William's world tilted. He gripped the desk. What? I'm sorry. I got pregnant during the affair. Didn't know whose baby it was. Marcus insisted on testing. Results came after he died. Owen isn't yours, William. William stood, his face pale. Get out. Doesn't this change? Get out! He was shaking. Owen is my son. Biology doesn't make a father. Love does. Sacrifice does. I chose him every single day. You carried him and abandoned him. You're not his mother. Now leave before I have you removed. Catherine left, crying. William sat alone in the dark office for an hour, processing. Then he drove home. Maggie was in the nursery, rocking Owen to sleep, singing softly. When she saw William's face, she knew something was wrong. What happened? Owen isn't mine. Biologically. Marcus was his father. Maggie's eyes widened. William, it doesn't matter. He crossed to them, gathered both Maggie and Owen into his arms. "He's mine. He'll always be mine. And you're—" He pulled back, looked at Maggie. "You're more his mother than Catherine ever was." Owen yawned, reaching up to touch both their faces. "Mama, Dada." "See?" William smiled through tears. "He knows who his parents are." February 3rd arrived with brutal cold and Martha Harrison's final request. "I want to see Owen one more time," she whispered from her bed, the oxygen mask fogging with each labored breath. The hospice nurse nodded to William, who carried Owen into the master bedroom. The room smelled of lavender and approaching death. Martha looked impossibly small beneath the heavy quilt, her silver hair spread across the pillow like a halo. When she saw Owen, she smiled, the first real smile William had seen from her in weeks. "Come here, my darling boy," she whispered. William sat on the edge of the bed, positioning Owen where Martha could see him. The baby looked at his grandmother with clear, focused eyes and reached for her hand. His small fingers wrapped around one of hers. "Grandma," Owen said. One of his newest words, and he used it perfectly. Martha's eyes filled with tears. "Yes, sweetheart. Grandma's here." She looked at William. "I need to tell you something. I knew about Catherine. For 6 months I knew she was alive." William's body tensed, but he didn't pull away. "Why didn't you tell me?" "I was afraid. Afraid you'd break completely. Afraid you'd reject Owen when you learned about Marcus. I was wrong to keep it from you." She gestured weakly toward the nightstand. "My will. Read it after. I'm leaving everything to Maggie." "Mom, what? No. Listen to me." Martha's voice gained sudden strength. "You have your company, your home, your wealth. Maggie has nothing. She lost everything. Her husband, her son, her career. She gave us Owen back. She gave you hope back. Money can't repay that, but it's what I have. My estate is $12 million. She's earned every penny." Maggie, standing in the doorway with tears streaming down her face, started to protest. "Mrs. Harrison, I can't." "You can, and you will." Martha looked at William. "You agree, don't you?" William nodded, his throat too tight for words. He took Maggie's hand, pulled her to the bedside. "Your family, Maggie. This makes it official." Martha looked at the three of them, her son, the woman who'd saved her grandson, and Owen himself, healthy and whole. "My family is complete," she said. "Owen is healthy. You found each other. I can rest now." She looked at Maggie. "Love them, dear. They need you." "I will. I promise." Martha's breathing became shallower. William held one hand, Maggie the other. Owen, sensing something important, placed his small palm on his grandmother's cheek. "Bye-bye, Grandma," he said softly. Martha smiled one final time. "Goodbye, my precious boy." She took one last breath, let it out slowly, and was gone. The heart monitor flatlined at 8:47 p.m. William collapsed forward, his shoulders shaking with silent sobs. Maggie held Owen close, her own tears falling into his soft curls. Owen didn't cry. He just watched, solemn and somehow understanding. The funeral was held on a gray February morning. The 7 families attended, standing together in solidarity. Patricia Reynolds came with her daughter Emma. Even some of William's business partners showed up, people who'd disappeared during his darkest months. But Catherine did not attend. William had made it clear she wasn't welcome. 10 days after the funeral, on February 10th, the Chen family reached out. David and Susan Chen invited William and Maggie to their Cambridge home. "We need to meet," David said on the phone. "Please bring Owen." The house was modest but warm, filled with medical equipment. In the living room sat Lily Chen in a specialized wheelchair. She was 2 years old but seemed younger, her body small and still. Her eyes were open, but unseeing, not from the medication now, but from the permanent damage it had caused. Susan Chen greeted them at the door, her face composed but her eyes haunted. "Thank you for coming." They sat in the living room. Owen, curious and energetic, toddled over to Lily's wheelchair. He touched her hand gently. "Baby sleeping?" he asked, looking up at Maggie. Maggie's heart broke. "Yes, sweetie. She's resting." Owen leaned forward and kissed Lily's hand. "Wake up soon." Susan Chen's composure shattered. She covered her face with her hands, sobbing. David wrapped his arm around her shoulders, his own eyes wet. "We kept giving her the medication," David said. "The FBI called, you called, everyone warned us. But we thought it was a hoax, some cruel joke. Dr. Chang assured us everything was fine. By the time we believed you, it was too late." "I'm so sorry," William said. "If we'd found you sooner, it's not your fault." Susan wiped her eyes. "It's ours. We didn't listen. Now our daughter will never walk, never talk, never see. And we have to live with that every single day." "I want to help," William said. "I'm establishing a foundation in my mother's name, the Martha Harrison Foundation for Medical Ethics. I'll donate $5 million initially, and I want to cover Lily's medical expenses. All of them. For life." David and Susan stared at him. "Why would you do that?" David asked. "Because it could have been Owen," William said simply. "Because your daughter deserves every chance, even if those chances are different now. And because my mother would have wanted this." "She taught me that family isn't just blood," William continued. "It's who shows up, who fights for you. Lily is part of this family now. All 7 children are." Susan reached across and took William's hand. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for not forgetting her." As they prepared to leave, Owen ran back to Lily one more time. He placed his favorite toy, a red ball, in her lap. "For you," he said. Lily's fingers twitched slightly. Not much, but something. Susan gasped. "She responds sometimes," David explained quietly. "Small movements. The doctors say she has some awareness. We hold on to that." In the car on the way home, Maggie held Owen on her lap, and William drove in silence. Finally he spoke. "I saw 6 children recover. 6 families got their kids back. But Lily," his voice broke, "we saved 6, but we didn't save 7. "You saved everyone you could," Maggie said firmly. "Lily's parents made their choice. You can't carry that guilt, William. You'll drown in it." "How do you let go of guilt?" He glanced at her in the rearview mirror. "You lost Tommy. How do you forgive yourself?" Maggie looked down at Owen, who had fallen asleep in her arms. "I haven't, not fully, but I'm learning that maybe I don't have to. Maybe guilt is the price we pay for love. Maybe it means we cared enough for it to hurt." She met William's eyes in the mirror. "You gave me a reason to keep going. Owen gave me a reason to try again." "That doesn't erase Tommy, but it honors him. He'd want me to love again." William nodded, unable to speak past the lump in his throat. That night, Maggie sat in her room holding Tommy's blue blanket. She'd been carrying it for 8 months, unable to let go. Now she looked at it differently. She pulled out the small box she kept hidden in her drawer, the one containing Tommy's last gift. Inside was a crayon drawing and a note in a preschool teacher's careful handwriting, transcribing Tommy's words. "Dear Mommy, if I'm in heaven, don't be sad. I'm playing with angels. Please smile again. Love another baby. They need you. Love, Tommy." Maggie pressed the paper to her chest and sobbed. Not from grief this time, but from release. "I found him, Tommy. I found the baby you sent me to save. Thank you for guiding me here. March arrived with tentative spring. Crocuses pushed through the last patches of snow in the mansion's garden. Owen was 11 months old now, babbling constantly, taking his first wobbly steps between furniture. The transformation from the silent, still baby of December was nothing short of miraculous. On March 5th, a letter arrived via courier, Catherine's lawyer. William opened it at the breakfast table while Maggie fed Owen oatmeal. The baby was making a spectacular mess, laughing each time he smeared food on his face. William read in silence, his jaw tightening. "What is it?" Maggie asked. "Catherine is donating $50 million to the National Postpartum Depression Foundation, anonymous donation. And she's setting up a trust fund for Owen, $20 million, accessible when he turns 25. He set the letter down. "She also wants to visit. Says she's completed intensive psychiatric treatment. What are you going to do?" "I don't know." William watched Owen, who was now trying to feed himself with a spoon upside down. "Part of me wants to refuse. But another part," he sighed. "I need to hear her out. Not for me. For Owen. Someday he'll ask about his biological mother. I need to be able to tell him I at least tried." Against Maggie's advice, William drove to the psychiatric facility where Catherine was voluntarily committed. The place was peaceful, more resort than hospital, nestled in the woods outside Boston. Catherine met him in a sunlit common room, looking healthier than he'd seen her in years, clear-eyed, centered. "Thank you for coming," she said quietly. They sat across from each other, the gulf between them vast despite the small table. "Why are you really here, Catherine? I need you to understand. I don't expect forgiveness. I can't forgive myself. But you deserve to know the truth." She took a shaky breath. "After Owen was born, something broke in my brain. It wasn't regular postpartum depression. It was psychosis. I heard voices telling me to drown him, to drive off a bridge. I was convinced I was evil, that Owen would be infected by my badness. The thoughts were so vivid, so real." William listened, his face unreadable. "I called Marcus, told him I was going to the ocean with Owen. He found me at the beach, the car running, Owen in his car seat. Marcus talked me down, suggested I disappear instead. Said it would be better for everyone if I was just gone. You could have told me. I would have helped. I couldn't think clearly enough to trust anyone. Everything was distorted, terrifying. Marcus arranged everything. Dr. Mitchell saw an opportunity, a wealthy, desperate woman. He took my money and made me disappear." She looked down at her hands. "I thought I was protecting Owen from me, from the monster I'd become." "You were protecting yourself," William said, not unkindly, "from the hard work of getting better." Catherine nodded, tears falling. "You're right. I took the easy way out. Let you grieve. Let Owen grow up without a mother. Worst of all, I left him vulnerable to Mitchell's experiments. If I'd stayed, if I'd been there, maybe Mitchell would have experimented on him anyway," William interrupted. "Or maybe not. We'll never know." He leaned forward. "What do you want from me, Catherine?" "Nothing. I'm not asking for custody or visitation. I know I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to know it wasn't about Owen. It was never about him. He was perfect. I was broken." She pulled out an envelope. "I'm moving to Oregon, starting over, teaching art to children, helping others in ways I couldn't help my own son. These are the trust documents for Owen. The money is his, no strings attached." William took the envelope. "He asks about you sometimes. Well, not you specifically, but he'll say Mama to Maggie and then look around like he's searching for another face. Some instinct tells him there should be someone else." Catherine's face crumpled. "How is he? Really? Happy? Healthy. His vision is about 95% normal now. He's starting to talk. Loves dogs, hates carrots, laughs at everything. William pulled out his phone, showed her a video of Owen chasing a butterfly in the garden, squealing with delight. Catherine watched, sobbing openly. "He's beautiful. He's so beautiful." "Yes, he is. And you'll never know him." William's voice wasn't cruel, just factual. "That's the price you pay for leaving. Maggie will raise him. She already is his mother." "I know. And I'm grateful she's there. You can send birthday gifts. Through my lawyer. Owen won't know they're from you, not until he's 18. Then we'll tell him everything, and he can decide if he wants contact. Until then, you're a ghost, and we're his reality." Catherine nodded. "That's more than I deserve." As William left, Catherine called out, "William, thank you for being the father I couldn't be a mother to match. He's lucky to have you, even if you're not his biological father." "I am his father," William said firmly. "Biology is just genetics. Family is choice. I choose Owen every single day." A week later, Patricia Reynolds requested to meet with Maggie at a coffee shop in Cambridge. They sat in a quiet corner, steam rising from their cups. "I need to tell you something," Patricia said, "about why I did what I did." Maggie waited. 15 years ago, I had a daughter, Emma. A different doctor, similar scheme. Emma was given an experimental drug for supposed ADHD. It caused permanent developmental delays. She's 16 now, functions at about a 10-year-old level. She'll never live independently. Patricia's voice was steady, but her eyes were haunted. "I became a nurse to find others like that doctor. When I heard Mitchell was doing pediatric trials, I applied to work for his patients specifically." "You've been hunting him for years," Maggie realized. 3 years with his patients, documenting everything. But I needed ironclad proof. Mitchell is respected, connected, brilliant. Without absolute evidence, he'd walk free and destroy my career. I'd never get another chance." She met Maggie's eyes. "When you stopped Owen's medication and he responded, you gave me the smoking gun I needed. But I know how it looked. I know you thought I was complicit. You let Owen suffer to build your case. One more week of suffering versus years of Mitchell continuing unchecked. It was a calculated risk. I'm not proud of it, but I'd make the same choice again, because now he's stopped, forever, and 7 children have a chance." Maggie was quiet for a long moment. "I understand. I don't like it, but I understand." Patricia pulled an envelope from her bag. "This is a letter of recommendation for your medical license reinstatement, signed by FBI investigators and all 7 families. You're a doctor, Maggie. You lost your license for trying to save a child from abusive parents. That's not a mistake. That's courage. Don't let one incident define you." Maggie took the letter with shaking hands. "Thank you. No, thank you. You did what I couldn't. You acted on instinct before you had all the evidence. That takes a different kind of courage." That evening, Maggie was cleaning out the last of her belongings from her old suitcase when she found the sealed envelope again. Tommy's letter. She'd read it 100 times, but tonight it felt different. She opened it once more. The crayon drawing showed stick figures, a mommy, a daddy, and a baby, hearts everywhere. And the words carefully dictated to his preschool teacher, "Dear Mommy, if I'm in heaven, don't be sad. I'm playing with angels. Please smile again. Love another baby. They need you. Love, Tommy." Maggie pressed the letter to her heart. "You knew, didn't you, baby? You knew I'd need permission to love again." She looked toward the nursery where Owen was sleeping. "I found him, Tommy. The baby you sent me to save. And maybe he saved me too." On March 20th, William called his family lawyer. "I want to formally adopt Owen. Even though I'm already his legal father, I want to do it again, based on choice, not assumption." The lawyer was confused. "But you're already on the birth certificate." "I know. But when Owen's older, I want him to see documentation that says I chose him. That after learning he wasn't biologically mine, I chose him anyway. Can we do that?" "It's unusual, but yes." The courthouse ceremony was small. Just William, Maggie, Owen, the lawyer, and a judge. Owen sat on William's lap, playing with his father's tie. The judge reviewed the paperwork. "Mr. Harrison, this is highly unusual. You're already Owen's legal father." "I know, Your Honor, but I want it in writing. I want my son to know, when he's old enough to understand, that I chose him. That biology didn't make me his father. Love did." The judge smiled. "Adoption granted. Owen Harrison is officially, doubly yours." William held Owen close. "You hear that, buddy? You're mine, forever and always." Owen grabbed his father's face with both hands. "Dada!" The judge cleared her throat. "Mr. Harrison, there's one more matter. You've requested that Margaret Thompson be designated as Owen's legal guardian in the event of your incapacity?" William looked at Maggie, who stood with tears streaming down her face. "She's already his mother in every way that matters. I want it official." "I can't," Maggie started. "You already are," William said. "Make it legal." The judge signed the paperwork. "Miss Thompson, you're now Owen's legal guardian and co-parent. Congratulations." Owen reached for Maggie. She took him, and he wrapped his arms around her neck. "Mama." "Yes, baby," she whispered. "Mama's here. Mama's always going to be here." William joined them, and they stood in the courthouse, the three of them, a family built not from biology, but from choice, trauma, and unconditional love. The judge watched them with wet eyes. "You know," she said quietly, "in 30 years on the bench, I've never seen anything like this. You're proof that family is what we make it." Outside, the first real warmth of spring touched their faces. Owen pointed at a cardinal, bright red against the gray courthouse stone. "Bird!" he shouted gleefully. "Yes, sweetheart," Maggie said. "A beautiful red bird." "Grandma's bird," Owen said solemnly, and William and Maggie exchanged a look. They'd told him stories about Martha, about the cardinal she loved. "Yes," William agreed, his voice thick. "Grandma's watching over us." The cardinal sang once, brilliantly, then flew away into the pale March sky. April 2024 marked 4 months since Maggie had walked through the Harrison mansion's doors carrying nothing but a suitcase and a broken heart. Now, the Martha Harrison Foundation for Medical Ethics was officially launching in a ballroom overlooking Boston Harbor. $50 million in initial funding, William's contribution combined with Catherine's donation, would protect children from predatory medical practices. The 7 families sat together at the head table. Patricia Reynolds stood at the podium, now the Foundation's chief investigator, describing their mission. "We've already identified 3 additional cases of medical fraud involving children. No more babies will be blinded for profit. No more families will be lied to by doctors they trust." Owen sat on Maggie's lap, babbling happily and waving at everyone. He was 1 year old now, walking confidently, saying dozens of words. His vision tested at 95% normal. The doctors said he might need glasses eventually, but he'd live a completely normal life. Lily Chen was there too, in her wheelchair with her parents. She'd made small progress, tiny movements, brief moments of seeming awareness. Susan Chen had told Maggie, "We measure victories in millimeters now, but we measure them." After the ceremony, William found Maggie on the balcony, Owen between them watching boats in the harbor. "The foundation is official," he said. "Patricia's already working full-time. We've hired 3 more investigators. Your mother would be proud. She'd say we're just doing what anyone would do. But most people don't. Most people look away." He turned to face her fully. "Maggie, I need to tell you something. These past 4 months watching you with Owen, seeing you come back to life, I've fallen in love with you." Maggie's breath caught. "William, I know it's complicated. You loved James, I loved Catherine. We're both still healing. But we're healing together, and I think that means something. I think we could be more than just Owen's parents. We could be a family, a real family." "I never thought I'd love again," Maggie said quietly. "After James died, and then Tommy, I thought that part of me was dead. But you and Owen brought me back to life." Owen, sensing the moment's importance, patted both their faces. "Mama, Dada." William laughed through sudden tears. "See? He already knows." "Knows what?" "That we belong together." William pulled a small box from his pocket and knelt on the balcony. Below, the foundation staff noticed and started gathering, pointing up. "Margaret Elizabeth Thompson, will you marry me? Not because Owen needs a mother, he already has one, but because I need you, because I love you, because you're my best friend and the strongest person I've ever known, because I want to wake up every morning and see your face. Will you marry me?" Maggie was crying now, nodding before she could speak. "Yes, yes, I'll marry you." William slipped the ring on her finger, a simple, elegant diamond that caught the afternoon light. Owen clapped his hands, delighted by the attention below. The foundation staff cheered. They kissed while Owen squirmed between them, and when they pulled apart, all 3 were laughing. Mrs. Henderson, who'd been invited to the ceremony, called up from below. "About time. I knew from the day she arrived." The wedding was planned for late April, in the mansion's garden as spring bloomed fully. They kept it small. 30 guests, mostly the 7 families, Patricia and her daughter Emma, Mrs. Henderson, and a few of William's close business associates. No Catherine. William had been clear. She could send gifts through lawyers, but she wasn't welcome at family events. The morning of the wedding, Maggie sat in Martha's old bedroom, now converted to a guest suite. Her simple white dress hung on the door. She held Tommy's blanket one last time. "I'm getting married today, baby," she whispered. "To a good man, a man who loves Owen like his own. I think you'd like him." She folded the blanket carefully. "I'm going to put you in a memory box now. Not because I'm forgetting you, but because I'm ready to live again. You told me to smile, to love another baby. I did. And now I'm going to love his father, too." She placed the blanket in a wooden box along with Tommy's drawing, his tiny hospital bracelet, a lock of his hair. She closed the lid gently and set it on the shelf. "Thank you for being my son, even if it was too brief. Thank you for sending me to Owen. I love you, always." A knock on the door. Patricia entered carrying a bouquet. "It's time." The garden was perfect. Cherry blossoms fell like snow. 30 white chairs faced an arch covered in spring flowers. Owen toddled down the aisle as ring-bearer, the small pillow tied to his wrist. He made it halfway before getting distracted by a butterfly and sitting down to watch it. Everyone laughed. William walked down to scoop him up, carrying him to the altar. Then Maggie appeared, walking alone. She paused at an empty chair near the front. Martha's photo sat there, surrounded by white roses. Maggie touched the frame. "Thank you," she whispered. William waited at the altar, his eyes wet as she approached. Owen reached for her, and she took him, so he stood between them as they said their vows. I promise to choose you, William said, his voice breaking. Every day, like I choose Owen. Not because I have to, but because I want to. Because you're the strongest, bravest, most beautiful person I've ever known. I promise to love you and Owen, Maggie replied, tears flowing freely. As my own, forever. You gave me a reason to keep living when I thought life was over. You gave me a family when I'd lost everything. Owen interrupted, tugging on Maggie's dress. Mama! Dada! He pointed to them, then to himself. Owen! Family! The officiant laughed. I think he's got it. By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. They kissed with Owen between them, and he squealed with delight. The small audience erupted in applause. The Chen family held hands, all of them crying. Patricia dabbed her eyes. Mrs. Henderson actually cheered. The reception was held in a tent in the backyard. Simple, elegant, full of joy. William and Maggie's first dance was to Somewhere Over the Rainbow, with Owen standing on William's feet, all three swaying together. During the dancing, a courier arrived with a package. For Owen, from a friend. Inside was a beautiful wooden train set, handcrafted, clearly expensive. The card read, For Owen, may you always move forward. From someone who believes in second chances. Maggie knew immediately it was from Catherine. She showed William, and he nodded. She can send gifts, but he'll never know they're from her. Not until he's old enough to decide for himself. As the sun set, the 7 families gathered for a photo. All the children who'd survived, their parents, William, Maggie, and Owen. Even Lily was there, in her wheelchair, her parents' hands on her shoulders. Patricia and Emma joined them. Mrs. Henderson took the photo, crying the whole time. You're all heroes, she said, every single one of you. 1 year later, April 2025. Owen was 2 years old, running through the mansion's halls at full speed, his favorite red ball bouncing ahead of him. Buddy, the golden retriever William had adopted as a therapy dog, chased after him, barking joyfully. Maggie was 7 months pregnant, her belly round and full. They'd learned the baby's gender last month. A boy. The name had been chosen immediately, Thomas James Harrison, Tommy for short. Owen was thrilled to be a big brother. He talked to Maggie's belly constantly. Hi, Tommy. I'm Owen. We're gonna play. The Martha Harrison Foundation was thriving. They'd investigated over 200 cases in 15 states, stopped 12 fraudulent medical practices, and protected thousands of children. Maggie had been offered the position of foundation director, but she'd surprised everyone by applying for medical license reinstatement instead. The hearing had been in March. Maggie stood before the medical board, her heart pounding. Dr. Thompson, the board chairman said, you were suspended for giving a patient incorrect medication deliberately. You claim you were protecting the child from abusive parents. Can you explain? Maggie took a deep breath. I was treating a 6-year-old boy. I noticed signs of severe abuse. Cigarette burns, healed fractures, fear of his parents. I reported it. CPS investigated and found nothing. 2 weeks later, the father came to pick up medication. I knew what would happen if I gave him the prescribed dosage. So I gave him a placebo instead. The boy survived. I was caught. I lost my license. You falsified medical records? Yes, I did. And I'd do it again. Maggie's voice was steady. That boy is alive today because I broke the rules. Sometimes the rules are wrong. The board conferred. Finally, the chairman spoke. Dr. Thompson, we're reinstating your license with a formal commendation. You're exactly the kind of doctor medicine needs, someone who puts patients first, even at personal cost. Maggie had wept. William, watching from the gallery with Owen, had cheered so loudly the chairman had to call for order. Now she was working part-time at Boston Children's Hospital while directing the foundation remotely. The best of both worlds, practicing medicine and protecting children from predatory doctors. One morning in April, William received a call from the prison. Dr. Harold Mitchell was dying. Terminal cancer, 6 months to live, possibly less. He'd requested to see William. William went, though every part of him resisted. Mitchell was in the prison hospital wing, gray and skeletal, barely recognizable as the man who'd betrayed their family. "Thank you for coming," Mitchell whispered. "I came for closure, not for you." "I understand. I just wanted to say—" Mitchell coughed, a horrible rattling sound. "Sarah died last month, peacefully. The care you arranged for her was excellent. She wasn't in pain. I'm glad. She deserved peace. I'm not asking for forgiveness, but I need you to know, I never wanted to hurt Owen. I convinced myself it was temporary, reversible, that I was saving my daughter. You were destroying other people's children to save yours. That's not love. That's selfishness. I know. I know that now." Mitchell looked at him with hollow eyes. "How is Owen?" "Thriving. He's too smart, happy, healthy. His vision is perfect. He'll never remember what you did to him." "Good. That's good. Will you tell him about me?" "When he's older, yes. The whole truth, the good, that you were my father's friend, and the bad, what you did. He'll decide for himself what to think of you." Mitchell nodded, tears sliding down his wasted cheeks. "Fair enough." He paused. "I'm sorry for everything. I know it doesn't matter, but I'm sorry." William stood to leave. At the door he turned back. "I forgive you." Mitchell's eyes widened. "What?" "Not for you. For me. I can't carry this hatred anymore. It's poisoning everything good in my life. So I forgive you. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. You destroyed lives. You'll die with that legacy. I know, and I deserve it." William left without looking back. Mitchell died 3 weeks later, alone. William paid for the funeral. 6 people attended: William, Martha's old lawyer, Patricia, and 3 staff from the foundation. Sarah Mitchell was buried beside her father. On her gravestone, William had added, "Innocent always, loved always." On a perfect spring day in April 2026, the Harrison family went to Boston Common for a picnic. Owen, now 2.5, ran ahead, chasing pigeons. Maggie walked slowly, her belly enormous. Baby Tommy was due in 2 weeks. William carried the picnic basket and Buddy's leash. Mrs. Henderson had come along, sitting on a bench and knitting something pink. "For the future," she said mysteriously, making Maggie laugh. Owen discovered the playground and ran toward the swings. "Higher, Daddy! Higher!" William pushed him gently, watching his son's face light up with joy. Owen's eyes, those blue eyes that had once been empty and unseeing, sparkled with life and mischief. "I can see everything," Owen shouted. "I can see the sky. I can see Mama. I can see Buddy." Maggie sat on a nearby bench, her hand on her belly where Tommy was kicking enthusiastically. A cardinal landed on the fence beside her, brilliant red, singing its heart out. "Look, Grandma Martha's bird," Owen called out. "Yes, sweetie," Maggie said. "She's saying hello." William left Owen on the swing and came to sit beside Maggie. He placed his hand over hers on her belly. "2 years ago, I was standing on a balcony with a bottle of pills, ready to end everything. 2 years ago, I was on a bus to nowhere, carrying nothing but grief. And now?" Maggie looked at Owen, laughing and swinging. Looked at William, his eyes full of love and hope. Felt Tommy kick under their joined hands. Now I have everything. Now I'm home." Owen ran over, breathless and grinning. He threw his arms around both of them, or as much as he could, with Maggie's belly in the way. "I love my family." "We love you too, sweetheart," William said. The cardinal sang again, and Maggie could have sworn she heard Martha's voice on the wind. "Well done, my darlings, well done." That evening, as the sun set over Boston, William stood at the fourth-floor balcony where 2 years earlier he'd almost ended his life. But this time, Maggie stood beside him, Owen in his arms, Buddy at their feet. "What are you thinking?" Maggie asked. "About how close I came to missing all this. If Owen hadn't cried that night, if you hadn't walked through our door, if you hadn't been brave enough to trust your instincts over authority." He turned to her. "You saved us, Maggie. Both of us." "You saved me too," she said. "We saved each other." Owen wriggled to get down, and they let him. He toddled to the edge of the balcony, safe behind the railings, and pointed at the sky. "Stars coming out." "Yes, they are," William said. "What do you wish for, Buddy?" "Nothing," Owen said cheerfully. "Got everything?" "Got Mama, got Daddy, got Buddy, got baby Tommy coming." He spun in a circle, arms wide. "Got whole world." "Yes, you do," Maggie whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Yes, you do." Below, the city lights flickered to life. Spring flowers bloomed in the garden. Inside, the nursery waited for Tommy's arrival, painted soft blue with stars on the ceiling. Martha's portrait hung in the library, smiling down on the family she'd helped create. And somewhere in Oregon, Catherine received a photo in the mail. Owen's second birthday party. Him blowing out candles, surrounded by love. She placed it in a frame on her desk, next to her therapy journals and art supplies. She was teaching children now, helping others heal in ways she couldn't help her own son. It wasn't redemption, she didn't deserve that, but it was something. A small light in the darkness she'd created. In Cambridge, Lily Chen made a sound, a real vocalized sound, and her parents wept with joy. Small victories. Measured in millimeters. In the prison hospital, Dr. Mitchell's empty bed was cleaned and prepared for the next patient. His story would be taught in medical ethics classes, a cautionary tale about desperation, greed, and the thin line between love and selfishness. But in the Harrison mansion, none of that darkness could touch them tonight. William picked up Owen, and Maggie leaned against him, and they watched the stars emerge one by one. "Tell me about Grandma Martha," Owen requested, a nightly ritual. So William told him about a strong, wise woman who never gave up, who brought a stranger into their home because she knew they needed saving, who spent her last days ensuring they'd be taken care of, who loved with fierce, protective devotion. "She's watching us," Owen said confidently, "from the stars." "Yes, she is," Maggie agreed. "And Tommy too?" Owen asked. "My other brother? The one in heaven?" Maggie's breath caught. They'd told Owen about Tommy, age appropriately, explaining that Mama had another baby before him, one who went to heaven. "Yes, sweetie. Tommy's watching too." "Good," Owen said, satisfied. "Then nobody's alone. We're all family. Even the ones in heaven." William and Maggie looked at each other over Owen's head, both crying now. "Blessed are the children," Mrs. Henderson always said. "They understand what we forget." That night, after Owen was asleep and Buddy was snoring by the fireplace, William and Maggie stood in the nursery, putting final touches on Tommy's room. "Are you scared?" William asked. "About the baby? After everything with Tommy?" "Terrified," Maggie admitted. "But also hopeful. I'm not the same person who lost Tommy. I'm stronger now, and this time I'm not alone." "Never alone," William promised. He pulled her close, careful of her belly. We're in this together. All of us. Owen, Tommy, you, me, Buddy, even Mrs. Henderson. They laughed. And Martha, Maggie added. Always Martha. Always, William agreed. 2 weeks later, Thomas James Harrison entered the world at 6 pounds 8 ounces, screaming lustily, eyes wide open and focused. Owen met his brother in the hospital and declared him small but okay. The 7 families sent flowers. Patricia brought a handmade blanket. Mrs. Henderson knitted a blue sweater. The Chen family sent a card. Welcome to the world, little one. You have a big brother who will teach you to see all the beauty in it. And Catherine, in Oregon, sent a silver rattle through the lawyers, engraved with, For Thomas, may you be blessed with love and light. William held his new son, biologically his this time, not that it mattered, and looked at Maggie, exhausted and radiant, in the hospital bed. Owen was curled beside her, already asleep, one small hand resting on Tommy's bassinet. We did it, William whispered. We survived. We healed. We built a family. We did, Maggie agreed. Out of broken pieces we made something beautiful. Tommy opened his eyes, dark blue, unfocused, but seeing, really seeing. And in that moment, Maggie felt a whisper in her heart. Tommy's voice from heaven. Good job, Mama. You kept your promise. You loved another baby. Now be happy. I will, she whispered back. I am. And she was. The end. This story is dedicated to every parent who trusted their instincts over authority, to every child who was saved by someone who refused to look away, and to every broken heart that found the courage to love again. The Martha Harrison Foundation for Medical Ethics continues to protect children from predatory medical practices. 7 families meet every December 4th to celebrate the day truth overcame lies and love overcame grief. Owen Harrison, now age 10, has 20/20 vision and dreams of becoming a doctor like his mama Maggie. Thomas Harrison, age 7, is his best friend and partner in chaos. William and Maggie Harrison remain happily married, proving that sometimes the family you choose is stronger than the family you're born into. And somewhere on a spring breeze a cardinal sings. Martha watches over them all. Sometimes the greatest love stories aren't about romance. They're about second chances. When William Harrison stood on that balcony ready to give up, he didn't know that a stranger carrying her own unbearable grief would walk through his door and change everything. Maggie had lost her husband and her baby boy. William had lost his wife and believed his son was lost to blindness forever. They were both drowning in guilt, in that terrible question we all ask ourselves, could I have done more? But here's the beautiful truth they discovered. You don't have to be someone's blood to be their family. You don't have to be perfect to be worthy of love. Sometimes God sends us broken people because only broken people understand how to heal each other. Martha knew this when she hired Maggie. She saw 2 shattered souls who needed each other, and she became the angel who brought them together. This story reminds us that it's never too late to build a family, to trust your instincts, to love again. Your past pain doesn't disqualify you from future joy. It prepares you for it. So here's my question for you. Have you ever trusted your gut instinct against everyone's advice and it saved someone's life? And have you found family in unexpected places? Share your story in the comments. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today.